Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. This video is going to be a 10 before the end reading list. So we're going to be talking about the 10 books I want to read before the end of the year. Before we get started, my name is Emily and I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's video and I hope you like it. Okay, so getting right into it, I do recognize that we are only a few weeks away from the end of 2025 and I've already posted a November TBR video and now I'm going to be talking about 10 books I want to read before the end of the year. So it is probably unlikely that I get to all of these books, and I know that. But I feel like this is a good excuse to just talk about books that I'm excited to read, so we're going to do a 10 before the end video anyway. So like I said, I did do a November TBR video already, and those books definitely are on my list to read before the end of 2025. So because I don't want to be repetitive, I'm not going to talk about those books, but those books are definitely on my radar for the immediate next few weeks. And then the 10 books I'm going to talk about now are like my hopefuls that I want to get to before the end of 2025. I also broke this down into two separate categories. And the first category is books that I started earlier this year and I never finished because I either wasn't in the mood for it or I soft DNF'd it or it just wasn't interesting me at that time. And then the other half of the books that I'm going to talk about are books that I haven't picked up yet this year and I definitely want to read before the end of 2025. So let's start with the books that I started earlier this year and I didn't get a chance to finish. First up on the list is Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen, and when I started this one over the summer, I was entering probably the worst reading slump of my life. I think I only read 1 or 2 books in August, which is really unlike me. But anyway, like I said, I started this, I entered my reading slump, and I just wasn't in the mood for this, and I wanted to make sure that I was in the right headspace to read this book because I really enjoyed the prologue and the first few chapters of this. I got up to page 124, so I got pretty far into the beginning of this book, but it just really wasn't something I was drawn to at the time because of my reading slump, and I wanted to make sure I really enjoyed this one, so I put it aside. This book follows our female main character whose name is Saffron, who is going undercover to the Blood Moons, which is this like notorious crime gang that is very prevalent in the city where she lives. The magic in this world is fueled by pleasure and pain, and that was just such a unique concept, I feel like. And then on top of that, the magic system and the way that this works is like wand magic. And I hadn't read a book with wand magic in a while. So again, it was a really unique concept and it was really interesting. It just wasn't something that was interesting me at that time. So I put this one aside, but I would like to read this one in December. So this is the first book that's going on my 10 before the end reading list. Next up, I have The Ministry of Time. And this one I actually picked up in 2023 and I also picked it up I picked it up in 2024 and I also picked it up earlier this year. But again, it was like wrong book, wrong time, so I put it aside. This one is kind of like a genre-defying romance, fantasy, literary fiction type book. So our main character is a bridge, which is essentially somebody who helps people who came from different time periods to the present day acclimate to living in the present day. So she gets paired up with this, I think he's like a commander from 1847. I was really enjoying the writing style and the story, but again, it just wasn't something I was in the mood for at the 2 times that I picked it up. But I feel like it might be a good book for December and the winter season, so hopefully I get to this one before the end of 2025. Up next, I have Arcana Academy by Elise Kova, and this is another one I started over the summer when I entered that reading slump, and it just wasn't interesting me at the time. I got up to page 38, so I didn't get super far in this one, but this is like a dark academia type romantasy book where our main characters use tarot cards as their source of magic and power, and our female main character is actually in jail at the beginning of this book, but she gets taken out of jail by the headmaster of Arcana Academy because he is going to use her as part of some ploy to do something. I don't really know exactly where the story was going, but that's what I got up to. So she's brought to this academy where she's supposed to learn how to make all these tarot cards and whatnot and like kind of refine her craft. I think at the time when I started this one, I just wasn't in the mood for a fantasy romance book, so again, this might be one that I pick up in December because it feels like that dark academia genre is still good for like the fall and winter time. So hopefully I read this one in December. If not, I'll probably save this one for like maybe next spring, but hopefully I get to it before the end of the year because I did start it earlier this year. And then the last book that I would like to pick up again before the end of 2025 is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. This one I started earlier in the spring, and again, I had just finished a similar book, so I feel like I wasn't really in the mood for a dark academia type book. And I think after this, I ended up picking up like a fun romance book because that was just more what I was in the mood for at the time. This one follows our main character, whose name's Skyona, and she is finally admitted into a university where she can study magic, and she's one of the only female students at this university, and it kind of just explores those dynamics of her being like the only or one of the first females who is admitted to this university. So I think there's a bit of a mystery subplot to this as well, and like something is going on that isn't right at this university, and she ends up investigating like whatever is going on with her assistant, who the university pairs her with. And to the outside world, her assistant is a janitor, so it's kind of supposed to be like a slap in the face that she's assigned this janitor as an assistant. The assistant is more than meets the eye as well, so he also has like his own backstory and his own strengths and everything that he brings to this partnership. So that is Blood Over Brighthaven, and those are 4 books that I would like to try and pick up again before the end of 2025. Now for the other books that I want to read before the end of the year, the first one I have on my list is kind of fun. It's called Bound by Ali Hazelwood. It's a Spotify audiobook that released that Ali Hazelwood wrote, and it's kind of like a novella length story. This one I have no idea what it's about, but I really like the art that's on the cover for this audiobook. Honestly, anything that Ali Hazelwood writes, I will try. So this is definitely something that I could see myself listening to over the next few weeks when I need something to do, like while I'm folding laundry or going on a walk or cooking dinner or something. So that is Bound by Ali Hazelwood, and that is the first book on this list of books that I just want to pick up before the end of the year. Next up, I have The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, and I've seen such good things about this, and I've heard that it's so unique and interesting. I really don't know much about it except that there's certain magic in this that has to do with animals. Definitely something I want to read before the end of the year. I've had it on my shelf since the summer when I heard a lot of people talking about it, but it just sounds so interesting. The only bad thing about putting this one on the list as well is that I feel like I have a lot of fantasy books, and sometimes when I read multiple fantasies in a row, then I'm not really in the mood for a fantasy for a few weeks. So I don't know if it's super realistic that I get to all of these before the end of the year. This would be like my ideal scenario of things to read over the next few weeks. Next up, I have another new release, which is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. So this one follows our 2 main characters. The first main character is named Una Everlasting, and she is a knight that lived centuries in the past. And then our second main character is a scholar named Owen. The scholar ends up getting sent back in time to the time of Una Everlasting. And like I said, Una Everlasting was a knight, and she was kind of like the most well-known knight of this time, and she died a tragic death. And he's sent back in time to like make sure she meets that fate, but when he gets back there, they end up falling in love. And it just sounds so romantic and interesting and very unique, and I'm really excited to see if this is a book that like I feel like I could be completely invested in. I did try to read one other book by this author before, and I didn't love it. That one was called The Starling House. I think I actually DNF'd it, but this one just seems like it's right up my alley, and I really hope I like it because again, I just love the cover and the story sounds so interesting. Next up is The Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, and this is one that I picked up when I was book shopping in Boston a few weeks ago. This one takes place in a very like Hollywood-esque time period, like old Hollywood kind of, in LA. And our main character is told that she's going to die by the next day at midnight if she doesn't find this like certain artifact. So she goes on a hunt to find the artifact. She kind of gets like swept up in this mystery, and there's a stranger that is like helping her find this artifact, and I feel like there's probably a romance subplot somewhere in there. But again, the setting and the vibe and the aesthetic of this one just seems really unique, and I really want to get to this one soon because I love the other books by Stephanie Garber, which are Caraval and the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogies. They are both super magical and fairy tale-esque, and I hope that this book has the same vibe as her other books. I have one more book to talk about for my list, but like I mentioned, I have a lot of books that I want to read before the end of 2025. So if you read any of these books and you think I should definitely try and prioritize that before the end of the year, please let me know because I will definitely move that up on my TBR. Again, it's probably unlikely that I get to every single book that I talked about in this video and my November TBR, so I'm looking for help prioritizing some of these books and picking ones that I'm more likely to enjoy or books that you recommend. So definitely let me know in the comments. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about the last book on this list, and that is the third Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. These are books that are on Kindle Unlimited, and they are so magical and unique and interesting. They're basically journal-like novellas where we're following our main character named Emma as she lives in 1800s London, and she meets all these eccentric characters, and she lives in this eccentric house, and we're really just following her day-to-day, very slice of life, but it's just something about it feels like you're reading a fantasy book, even though it's not actually fantasy. And the part of London that she lives is like a little bit quirky and mysterious things happen. And it's just so cute. And I feel like because these are novella length, but they're still really engaging, they're the perfect books to pick up over the next few weeks because if you're trying to get to your reading goal, they are quick reads. And I feel like you can get lost in the story even though they're so short. So I would definitely recommend these novellas over the next few weeks if you're looking for something to try and reach your 2025 reading goal. Okay, and those are the 10 books that I am adding to this 10 before the end list. Like I said, please let me know if I should start with any of these books when I finish my November TBR. That is it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please do all those classic YouTube things like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.